Let's see what we have for exercise 27 in the heart. Now, something we'll look at along with the heart is across the broad top of the heart, what's called the base, are some of the large arteries and veins associated with the heart itself. So we may not have gotten really into arteries and veins yet, but by definition, know that arteries carry blood away from the heart and veins always carry blood back towards it. So if you want to say arteries take blood from the heart to the tissues and veins from the tissues back to the heart, either way you like it right there. But in addition to those very large arteries and veins we're going to see at the broad base, we'll also see some arteries taking blood into the cardiac muscle, now not the chambers, but the muscle itself, and also some veins taking blood back out of that muscle. So a little bit further in other videos, we're going to see there's 7 major arteries that take blood to the cardiac muscle and 3 big veins that drain out. So we'll see all that on the anatomy of the heart. Something else worth mentioning is that when you get to the heart, it's found in an area called the mediastinum. Well, that's a region in between your lungs. There's more than just the heart found there, but something that is. There's also the pericardial cavity. Now remember, as far back as chapter 1 in your books, you saw these different body cavities. And remember, no matter which body cavity you look at, there's always an inner and outer layer, visceral and parietal. The inner visceral layer is always the surface of an organ. Well, in this case, that's the same as the epicardium, the outer layer of the heart is called the epicardium, but that's also the inner layer of the pericardial cavity. So there's your inner layer, the surface of the organ, in this case the heart, since we're in the pericardial cavity. And then there's a layer around it, the parietal pericardium. And remember, there's always that slippery serous fluid in between these 2 layers right here. And that fluid always serves the same 2 functions, reduces friction, and helps to hold the organ in place. Nothing different about that. But then looking at layers of the heart wall, we've got pictures show this a little bit further along here too. Epi is going to be outer. That is the outer layer. So if you're looking at the outer layer, the surface of the heart, that is the epicardium. Covers the surface, and again, same as the visceral layer when you look at the pericardial cavity. Of these 3 layers, epicardium, myocardium, and endocardium, the myocardium is the thickest by far. Myo means muscle. Well, this middle layer is where all the cardiac muscle is at. Cardiac muscle is just about all that the heart is. So probably at least 90% of the thickness of the heart wall will be myocardium. Then there's the endocardium. Endo is always an inner layer of something. So this endocardium is a very smooth inner layer of epithelial cells. It's good for it to be smooth because the blood will flow easier. The easier the blood flows, less workload there is on your heart, and we always want that. Let's think just a little about the positioning of the heart. Now, everybody's probably heard that your heart doesn't lie right in the center of the thoracic cavity. Basically, about 1/3 of your heart, the right side of it, is deep to your sternum, and about 2/3 of it is left to your sternum. And of course, it's between the lungs in that mediastinum and rests right on top of that diaphragm muscle. This could be important if you may be going to place a stethoscope over the heart and maybe listen to the different valves. That's something else right there we could look at. Placing leads for an ECG, whatever that may be. Good to know where the heart's located. How about chest compressions for CPR, something like that too. Inside the heart, we're going to look at quite a few structures right here. So there's already several videos for heart anatomy, and we've got some pictures too. And one quick way to learn much of the heart anatomy, not all of it, but a lot of it, is to learn the 15 steps of blood flow through the heart. Always start with the 3 inflows of blood in on the right side of the heart. So if you look inside that right atrium, which we'll see in pictures soon enough, there's 3 inflows. There's the superior vena cava that returns all blood from above your heart, the inferior vena cava that returns all blood from below your heart, and then the coronary sinus returns blood from the heart muscle itself. So that's the entire body returning all blood into the right atrium. It's that little upper chamber on the right side. If blood's going to leave that right atrium, it's got to get through the tricuspid valve. Your book wants to call that the right atrioventricular valve, since this one's on the right side of the heart, and it's in between an atria and a ventricle. It's just another name for it. Right below it, you got the right ventricle. That's what pushes blood towards your lungs. So the right ventricle is going to push blood through the pulmonary semilunar valve. That's going to take it up through the pulmonary trunk. And at the top of the pulmonary trunk, it splits left and right into pulmonary arteries, which go to your lungs. So, of course, there you'd have gas exchange. As soon as that blood circulates through the lungs, it's going to come right back towards the heart through pulmonary veins. Again, arteries took blood away from the heart, veins back towards it. You'll see 4 holes inside that left atrium. That's all 4 of those pulmonary veins coming into that chamber. So right below it's the bicuspid valve. If they want to call that the mitral valve or the left atrioventricular, all the same. That'll take blood down to the left ventricle, and that'll push it out through the aortic semilunar valve, out to the aorta, out to all the body tissues, and then it's going to come right back to number 1 again. So knowing all these parts of the heart, outside and inside, and those 15 steps of blood flow through the heart, are a good way to start with your heart anatomy. So we'll see pictures of all those, got videos too. Good review questions right here. Describe the size, shape, and location of the heart. You look at the size, most books will tell you about the size of your fist. Shape, it's broad at the top and tapered at the bottom. Top's called the base, tapered bottom's called the apex. And we mentioned the location. About 2/3 of it is left of the sternum. We looked at the 3 layers of the heart wall, and soon enough we're going to look at the electric conducting system, and then we looked at the 15 steps of blood flow through the heart right up here too. So get you started on some of your basic heart information. We'll get to much, much more further along.